Hey book lovers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mar, and as you can tell from the title of this video, your girl is employed now. Your girl has a job. I've actually been working this job for the past 2 months, so that is why you haven't seen any videos from me for the past 2 months. It's mostly just me getting back into the swing of things, of having a 9 to 5 job, having that schedule, learning how to figure out that work-life balance and all that. Now I've just kind of found a place where I finally kind of have a schedule that I've set, and so I found time to read again and pick up my love, my hobby of reading while having a 9 to 5. So for this week, I thought I would take you guys along with me as we just see what I read in a week while I have a 9 to 5 job. I really do want to push myself to read as much as I can, whether it's maybe just for 15 minutes or just a couple pages each night. I really want to see how much I read in a 9 to 5 work week. And I know for my work schedule this week, it isn't going to be as chaotic as it usually is, or I'm hoping at least. Let's see sort of what I read in a week. Without further ado, let's get started with this video. So for this video, it just so happens that the day I am filming it, it is my birthday. For my birthday today, really, I just carved out time for reading. I literally told my family the only thing I want to do today is read and then go out for dinner. Right now, it is currently almost 3:30, and this morning I did finish a book. I finished Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, and I've been reading that book since January. And finally, the audiobook was on Libby, but it was only for a 6-day loan, so I really had to get through it pretty quickly. And so I just finished it this morning, and I'm still sitting on my thoughts about that book. It's the first ever Sally Rooney book I've ever read, and her writing style is very unique. It is very distinct. So when you pick up a Sally Rooney book, she has a very distinct writing style. She has her own her own little flair, I would say. She also uses that very stylistic choice of not using quotation marks when she has her characters speak or anything like that. So that kind of takes a while, it takes you a while to get used to if you're not used to that. I don't know if it was the best book for me to start with when it came to Sally Rooney. Again, I'm very much sitting on my thoughts about that one. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading it, but it's just so different from what I normally read that I'm just sort of figuring out, did I actually like it, or am I just saying it because a lot of people have liked it. That is the first book I read this morning. Didn't vlog it or anything because I just really wanted to finish it. But I think the next book I am going to be reading is All Shall Mourn by Ellie Marney. If you've watched my previous videos and all that, you know that I have loved this series of books by Ellie Marney. So the first one is called None Shall Sleep, and the second one is Some Shall Break. And so this is, I believe, the third and final of the series. It's pretty much about these teenagers that get recruited by the FBI and all of that to help solve a case in the 1980s. It is very reminiscent of the book series The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is one of my favorite books. Again, if you've watched videos on my channel, and then also if you like Criminal Minds, you would probably like this book series. But yeah, this is the final book of that series, and usually with this series I just eat it up. I read it super quickly, so I'll probably finish it by the you know by the end of this weekend. Another book I'm reading, or more specifically listening to, is, I believe it's Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood, and that is her Spotify kind of exclusive audiobook. I don't know if it was a collaboration between her and Spotify to release a short little book, but anyways, it's only 4 hours if you listen to it on normal speed. I listen to audiobooks on 2 to 3 times speed, but I'm currently in the middle of that one as well, and so I'll probably finish that this weekend. Without further ado, let's get started on reading this book. just read the first like 50 pages of Al Shamorn, and literally I'm already obsessed with it. I know I'm going to eat this up probably most of tonight and then maybe tomorrow if I don't finish it. Pretty much it takes place, I would say, like, I feel like a couple months after, maybe not even then, like a couple months or weeks after the second book. And if you've read the second book of the series, it ends on this like, it's crazy. Like the ending literally had my jaw dropping and all of that. And so this sort of takes place after the events that occur in the second book and sort of the traumatic stuff that they dealt with in that book. And what I really love about this book series is that the characters are really interesting. The teenagers that are working for the FBI, they have evolved in maturity quite fast. Meanwhile, the, I guess, unsubs, you would say, in these books and all that, or like the main villains, they're also very interesting because they're very unpredictable. You don't really know what they're going to do next. You can't really plan it out. So every time like they do something, I'm truly like shocked because I'm just like, oh, I did not expect it to go in that direction. And yeah, like they have very like interesting personalities and also very interesting dynamics with each other when it comes to characters. And so that's what I really love about it. Like they always have me on the edge of my seat when I read like this book series because I truly just don't know what to expect. Again, like we're only really at the beginning stages, so I have no idea like in what direction like this book is going to like head in, but I'm excited to figure it out and learn and see what happens to these characters. But I know for a lot of it, I am going to be stressed. So yeah, that is my little update for you for All Shall Mourn. Um, my dinner, my birthday dinner is soon, so I have to go get ready for that. But I will return to you when I decide to return to you. So I just returned home from dinner. It was really good. We went to one of my favorite restaurants that serves like Italian, like Japanese fusion type food. It was really yummy. I am back home and I'm just going to spend the rest of the night just reading because that's all I had on my schedule. So hopefully I get through this book, All Shall Mourn. I'm really excited to do so, but I am going to get changed into my pajamas and we're just gonna chill at home and read. So I've made it to chapter 15 of All Shall Mourn. I'm a little bit more than halfway through this book, but the stuff that has happened in the last few chapters has literally left me like in shock because like the stuff that happens kind of gross, but now I like am in the zone where it's like I have to keep reading to figure out what is happening right now, what's going to happen. I literally like did not see any of it coming, which I kind of should have, especially with this author because she like loves to do a little twist and turn. But the twists are turning, and so I have kind of been left in this state of like paralysis right now. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this book. I don't know how it's going to end. My brain is just like I'm literally awake. Um I'm kind of terrified to read more, but I am really enjoying this book so far. I think out of all of the books in this series, I think this one I'm kind of like the most hooked by right now just cuz so much stuff is happening, and obviously like it's the final book, so like things are in a way wrapping up and all that. I think I'm going to read a couple more chapters and then go to bed and then probably finish this tomorrow cuz I am eating this up. So, yeah, but just wanted to give you a quick little update as to where I am with All Shall Mourn. Okay, I just finished this book. I have so many thoughts, but I'm going to sit on them for a bit and also grab my mic, and then we'll just do a quick little review of this. I'm not going to go in depth or anything, but yeah, I'm back with my mini mic and I'm ready to talk about this book right here. I think this book is going to be one of my, I would say, top reads of this year. I honestly had such a fun time reading this, and it just felt so different than all of the other books that I've read, like in this genre. Like, even the first two books, obviously, they were leading up to sort of this climax, this last final book. But even then, it was such a fast paced novel. And I did enjoy it a bit better than the other two just because there were just so many elements to it that freaked me the fuck out. Like, it truly, reading this book made my skin crawl. There were some moments reading this where I was just like, how is this like a YA series? Like, this one, I would say, goes into YA almost like new adult, just because all of like the content that's in this book is just very like explicit and just creeped me the hell out. I would say gory and more traumatizing than the other two books. But what I really liked about this book as well is how it sort of wrapped up the character arc of the main characters in the series, because obviously like they're teenagers who get recruited into the FBI, and a lot of the stuff that they go through with this recruitment like is truly like traumatizing, and the government truly just like in a way just doesn't give a fuck and so like they just don't care about sort of the traumatic kind of situations that these teenagers have gone through. In this book, they're really questioning their place in this type of occupation, in this industry, in police enforcement, in becoming these agents. And at the same time, they're dealing with all of the trauma that the main, sort of unsub bad guy of this book has put them through, like throughout this entire series. And so I really liked this sort of character development, these like thoughts that they've had, sort of just about the experiences and the PTSD and the trauma that they've really been through. And so I think that's what I also really like about this book. Again, out of all three of them, I would say this one is my favorite just because it was fast paced, it was always moving, and I feel like because the characters were so established at this point, like you didn't really have to sit around and kind of wait for like this exposition dump. It was sort of just go, go, go. The ending, I would say there were a lot of things like in the last 30% that shocked me and made my jaw drop. But at the same time, there were some other things where I'm just like, I feel like it could have been executed a lot better and all of that. I still enjoyed, the action that was involved. But the last page of this book, guys, my jaw, like, I literally shook. It is a bit more open-ended, so I have no idea if this is really like the last book or if there's going to be a spin-off or whatever, but either way, I will be tuning into whatever Ellie Marney has next on her list. She will become one of my auto buy authors. Again, this is gonna be one of my top reads of the year. I really enjoyed it. Again, there were some things that I thought could have been better, but I really can't like say anything without spoiling like this book series or anything like that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on All Shall Mourn. And I'm gonna get started on a couple other books now. Okay, so I just switched to film on my iPad, so if the audio and the video quality is just like different and also like the angle is different, that's the reason, but I needed to show you what I am going to be reading slash listening to this week. So I just wanted to show you my phone as well. So these are the two books I am planning on reading slash listening to. The first one I have is Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood, and right now I'm actually about like 50% of the way through the audiobook. So if I listen to it now, I'm probably going to finish it within the next hour or two. And then Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. This one is, I believe she just released it, like, I don't know if it was like this month or a couple weeks ago or something, but it's very new. I've only read one other Olivia Blake book, and that was One for My Enemy, and that was like her Romeo and Juliet retelling with witches sort of vibe standalone book. I haven't read anything else she's written, but I did enjoy that one, so I thought I would do this one because I believe this is also a standalone. Usually I use my phone to record these videos and all that, so you probably won't get a lot of footage of me reading or listening to these ones, but just know I am doing it. So yeah, that is what I'm going to do next. I'm gonna listen to probably Two Can Play while I do some laundry and all of that, and then we will get started on Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake when I have time next to film and all that, but I will give you my updates and reviews as I go along with these books. It is the next day, and I thought I would give you just some quick reading updates. So, yesterday night, I finished Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood, and overall, I like the story. I mean, because it is an audiobook and because it's primarily focused, like, there's no physical book to really go along with it, I don't think I was like as invested in the books as like her. I don't think I was as invested in the story compared to like her other books and all of that. I did like the concept. It's about like these two people who have this opportunity to like develop this video game that's based off of this book series and all of that, and they kind of have like this, not necessarily enemies to lovers, I wouldn't classify it as, it's more of like a big miscommunication trope between them. She's wondering why like this guy doesn't like her and all of that. I really like the concept of like two like game developers or game designers. Again, this audiobook was only 4 hours long, so the story itself was very quick, and a lot of things happened in that small time frame. I think any Ali Hazelwood book that I read or listen to, I'm just like always hooked from beginning to end. It's not one of my favorite Ali Hazelwood stories or whatever, but I did, enjoy listening to it, and it was just like a quick read. I started reading Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake, and so far I am almost 30% of the way into the book, and I really like it. This one, it is giving like some like Succession vibes and all of that. Not that I've seen the show Succession at all. It's about these three siblings who have like this like CEO, millionaire, billionaire, like tech company, dad or whatever, who ends up passing away. And so these three siblings have obviously like this really like competitive and interesting dynamic with each other, and now they kind of have to sort of come back together and work out sort of what's happening with the company after like their dad dies and all of that. And like they each have kind of like their own thing that they're going through, but at the end of the day, all of them are kind of horrible people. They're kind of all just very entitled and spoiled and privileged and, selfish. And like they have this dynamic that it's like they kind of like hate each other, like they can't stand each other, but they have to come together after like their dad dies and sort of figure out all that stuff. And then also in this book, there's like this kind of like magic element to it that sort of coincides with like the tech that they have in this book and all that. So it's a really interesting read, and I am enjoying it so far. I can't really explain like the magical elements to it, but it does have like something to do with like, I think like them being able to like control like electricity or something along those lines. Again, like I'm still getting into it and I'm still learning the world, and all of that. But so far I'm having a really good time reading it, and also like that whole explanation that I just did probably wasn't like the greatest. The way I'm reading it, I'm laughing at so many like moments in the book. Like there's like, there's like very serious like it's very serious, but at the same time like it's also really unserious, like the dynamic between the siblings. Like it's just very realistic of like, having a sibling and all that if you have siblings. At work today, I wanted a quick audiobook to listen to, and I saw that Lost and Lassoed was available on Libby, so I quickly downloaded that, and I've been listening to Lost and Lassoed. So I've read about or I've listened to about 20% of it. Out of all three books that have been released, I think this one might be my favorite one, just because it's with Teddy and Gus, and their dynamic is very much enemies to lovers, and they're both really funny characters, and the audiobook narration also eats with this one. And so yeah, for the most part I'm really enjoying it, and I feel like I think it's Blue Rebel Ranch, sorry. For like the Blue Rebel Ranch series or whatever, I think like, yeah, this one is definitely my favorite. Usually for me, I'm very much like anti like Western romance books, because I just like, I can't get into them, and I feel like a lot of it is just due to the fact that like especially with like Elsie Silver books, is a lot of Elsie Silver books take place in like fictional towns that are near like where I currently live. And so it just kind of takes me out of it every time I hear like the town that I'm from and all that, or the city I'm from. It just takes me out of like the reading experience. So I just like, I can't do anything like close or like proximity to like where I live. But like with this series, I'm eating it up. I love all the characters. I understand like why the Western romance books have become a thing, but at the same time I'm not fully sold on it. Like this is the only book series that I really like truly enjoy when it comes to this genre. So yeah, those are the updates I have for you guys. And then tomorrow is new book release Tuesday, and I'm hoping to get my hands on Emily Henry's new book. So we'll probably pick that up after work or whatever, and then immediately start reading. We'll see where I get when I next update you. I just went book shopping, and I didn't want to film in the bookstore just because it was busy. It's just I'm awkward, so I just didn't want to film. But I got the two books that I wanted. I obviously got Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life, and then I also picked up Gifted and Talented by Albie Blake, as you know, because I'm in the middle of reading that, and it is literally due tomorrow, and I'm only 40% of the way through this book. So I just thought, you know what, might as well pick up the physical copy since I'm liking reading it so much. So I just picked up these two books, and I'm gonna get started on this one tonight. I'm gonna try to take my time with it, because usually with Emily Henry books, I wouldn't say I read these like fast, but I do read them at a pretty quick pace, and I feel like with her writing, I do need to kind of sit back and relax a teeny bit. So that's what I'm going to do, but I'm very excited to read this one, and I'm probably going to annotate this. I usually don't like annotating hardcovers, but I usually don't buy double of Emily Henry books, and usually I get them on release day, so they always come out in hardcover. So I'm just gonna start annotating this book, but I am with my dad right now. He's the one that drove us, and he's currently getting a bubble tea right now, and I'm just chilling in the car about to start this book. Hey friends, I'm finally back home from like a really long day of work and just some other things. I had to go to a dinner for an organization that I volunteer with, and so yeah, I really just haven't had time to read today. I did bring my new Emily Henry book to work today, thinking that I could get at least like 30 minutes or so of reading. Didn't really happen. I read 2 chapters, but I didn't get to annotate my chapter 5. So I think what I'm going to do tonight is I am going to watch some television while I annotate this book. Yeah, I'm catching up on a new episode of The Rookie because I didn't get to watch it yesterday because I was literally book shopping. So I think the rest of the night I'm just gonna relax, read some of this book, annotate some of this book, and then yeah, and watch some TV.
Barracks, but a massive earthquake swallowed the building, killing everyone inside.
Many saw the event as retribution for Spanish crimes committed in the New World.
No.
Yes. You were filming there too. Did you experience any
It has been a hot minute since I last checked in with you guys. I think the last time I checked in with you guys was Wednesday night, and that was 5 lifetimes ago. So it is now Friday evening, and I'm here to kind of give you an update as to what I've been reading this week. So for the most part, I've been focusing on A Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, as well as Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. But I did actually finish a book within the past few days, and that was Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage, and that is the 3rd book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. If you've watched one of my previous videos, it was like reading Western romances for a week. That was when I first got introduced to the series, because Western romances is kind of like a genre now that's become really popular within the past year or so. And so, yeah, I really like the Rebel Blue Ranch series. That is the only Western romance series I like seriously like and will like continue reading and all of that. It's just, I think Lila Sage is just so good at making these like romances really fun and really quick, but also have that like emotional side to them as well. And you know, I think she's really good with characterization. I gave a 4.25 stars, and it is probably my favorite in the series. I really liked Done and Dusted. I thought Swift and Saddled was like okay, but this one, I think it's my favorite one out of all of them. I love the characters Gus and Teddy. I think their relationship is super like fun and all that. Obviously, it's like enemies to lovers. It's more of a slow burn compared to the other two. It's also best friend's brother, cute Victoria Justice. Yeah, but it was a really cute book, and I listened to the audiobook and all of that, and so I really enjoyed it. It's my favorite. I think I just like the story a bit better, and I like the characters dynamic and all of that a bit better in this one. Yeah, so that's what I was listening to for the past few days. I'm currently focused on completing these 2 books this week. Gifted and Talented, I'm actually almost done. I only have maybe like 20% left of this book, and Great Big Beautiful Life, I'm only on like chapter 9. So this one I'm literally taking my time reading, because first off, Emily Henry releasing a book is literally an annual event. She only does it once a year, and so you kind of just have to savor the time you have with Emily Henry's books and all of that. So that's why I'm really savoring this one. And this one, I would say, it has like the same kind of like, for this one, I would say it is more plot based than character based. I feel like a lot of Emily Henry's books are more character driven, but this one is surprisingly more plot driven, so I'm actually really enjoying this one. This one, there's a bit more of a mystery too and all of that, but yeah, slowly getting through this one, and so I think I'm actually going to try and finish Gifted and Talented tonight. I can probably finish it within the next few hours or so, so I'm going to give you a full sort of review after I finish this. I just finished reading Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. Olivia Blake. And I have so many thoughts about this book, so let's get straight into it. I'm gonna put this down because I don't want to hold it because she kind of thick. But overall, I love this book. And I feel like the reason why I liked it so much is because I just genuinely went into it not really knowing what it was, but like just knowing the overall concept of it. And I think, especially with like Olivia Blake books, is that she has a very wide range of genres and how she writes and all that. Again, I've only read two books, including this one. The only other book I've read of hers is One for My Enemy. And so that one I would say was a bit more action packed, and it was a lot more like reading a play because it is like Romeo and Juliet inspired and all of that. There are many, different characters, and they all have their own sort of storylines in that book that interconnect. Where for this one, I some for some reason got a lot of like Magnolia Parks vibes when it came to the writing style, not necessarily plot or anything. A little bit okay, a little bit when it came to characterization, because all of the characters in this book, all the characters in this book are just like unlikable. They're toxic. They're very flawed. They are very self-absorbed. They are very rich, like it's very much that type of vibe, but you mix it with like a show like Succession, and you mix it with a bit more of like this fantastical elements and all of that, or magical elements. And so, yeah, it's like I can't really give away too much about this book without spoiling it, but pretty much this book is about these three siblings who learn that their father is dead, and their father is like this rich CEO, like millionaire guy, and he raised them to strive very high, and to go above and beyond. And so it is really reminiscent of just the the high standards that a lot of families and all of that, parents put their like children under, when they're young, right? And how it affects them growing up, as you start to experience the world and all of that. And obviously there are some things that are, you have to suspend disbelief for, but a lot of the themes really do follow, being told that you're gifted as a child. And especially I would say in North America, in Canada, I guess in the US as well, there is this thing in our society that schools really push like this very intellectually like educational program. Usually it's called the GATE program or the gifted program. And pretty much to get into this program, you take this test, and if you score, relatively high on those tests, or your scores reflect that you have a very like high aptitude and all of that, you usually get accepted into these GATE programs, and you do like math, science, English, whatever, but like it's a harder version of those courses in that, in compared to like what your current grade level or age group is learning and all of that. And so for me, I was never in GATE. I was never in the gifted programs. Most of the gifting programs occurred like when you entered like middle school. So like grades like 7 to 9 was like, I would say, when a lot of people were applying to gifted programs, because there were specific schools that had these programs. And it was like you were just told that you had like a higher aptitude education level compared to people your age. And so you would technically be taking like harder courses and all that. And then usually after middle school ends, a lot of kids in these GATE programs just choose to go back to like their regular like high schools and all of that. And then usually in high school they'll take like either IB or like AP courses or whatever. And it's like usually a lot of the times though, when you're gifted, you know being gifted is associated with a really positive thing. And you're kind of promised that because you're gifted, you're promised a lot more things. I feel like the way I saw education as well and all of that was just very different, because like I didn't really start having like great grades until I entered like university. And so like I never really had the mentality of being a gifted kid until I finally, went into university and like saw that my grades were like, I had like a 4.0 GPA. I got a lot of validation from the grades that I was getting in school that I was like afraid to fail. And so this book really deals with that theme of, being gifted and being promised all these things and, having that sense of validation from your achievements, from school, from work, and all of that. And then entering, these situations where, you know, you're finally learning how to fail and you're learning how take this failure and all of that. And so it's a really interesting book. I would say is very different. It's very hit or miss type of writing. It is more so of like a stream of consciousness. So you're not necessarily hearing like all of the thoughts of the characters because there is a specific narrator in this book that is telling you these things, and this narrator is an unreliable narrator, but at the same time, you learn a lot more about these characters than you would in another book. And so it is a very character driven novel. And so, pretty much, um, yeah, it's like even though there's like a magical element to it, I would say the magical element isn't really touched upon. There's not really any explanation as to like why this magic exists in this universe. It's sort of like it's something that these characters have. They know how to use it, and the way they use it sometimes, um will affect the plot and all of that in this book, but that's not really the point. The bigger emphasis is the relationships between the characters, the growth of the characters, and they are all three siblings, I would say, are very unlikable, each in their own respect. But by the time you get to the end of the book, it's sort of like you start to like them a lot more and all of that. And um you start to understand them a lot more. And so I personally really enjoy the characters, even though they were unlikable. They made it entertaining. There is one specific character that I love. I don't want to say who it is because I don't want to spoil this, but like she really is like, she's the character that, is probably like the most asshole. But the things she says are so funny that like when you go in with that like mentality of like they're not supposed to be likable, they're supposed to be unlikable, and all of that, when I think once you realize that, it just makes for a really fun read because the things she says are so funny and unhinged. And like, it's like if you ever said something, if you ever said one of like the things she says to a person, like a person would actually like look at you and be like, is this person okay? But the way she like just delivers it is so good. It's so great and entertaining that like I genuinely like love, reading about this character and her story. And this character storyline was just like really like interesting to follow for me as well. Like every time I got to that character, I was like, yes, give me more, give me another book. This is like a 5-star read for me. This one was kind of unexpected for me. I didn't really pick it up expecting like that I would love it or anything because it's such a different like genre and style of book that that I from what I normally read. But overall, I really enjoyed it. And I don't know if I'll be picking up another Olivia Blake book anytime soon. Yeah, I just had a really fun time reading it. 5-star read. We found a 5-star read in this video. And yeah, the last book I'm probably going to read for this video is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. It is currently Sunday, so it's actually been a little bit more than a week since I started filming this video. I know the title of the video says what I read in a week with the 9 to 5 job and all that. You know what? I can do whatever I want with this video. So it's going to be a bit more than a week, but I thought I would update you guys as to what I think of Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. Right now, I'm currently 50% of the way through this book, and I am really liking it. I feel like with Emily Henry books, they're just so easy to get into and they're so easy to read. And comparing it to the other Emily Henry books, I think this is going to be one of my favorites. Hoping I don't jinx myself when I say that. But yeah, for the most part, I've just been slowly getting through this, annotating it. But for the most part, it feels like such a different book. It feels so different than to what Emily Henry usually writes. I feel like with a lot of her books that she's released, they have been more literary fiction, but usually it's literary fiction and the romance element is more prominent in those books, whereas with this one there is more of like a plot like mystery element. Pretty much it's about these two different writers, one named Alice, the other one named Hayden, and they're both kind of contracted under this famous actress to write sort of like this biography about her. And they're trying to figure out sort of, her life story and, why she kind of disappeared from the limelight and all of that, and sort of trying to uncover a lot of things along the way. The mystery element and all that is more like prominent than the actual romance. I feel like the romance is definitely more of a subplot in this book. And this is it's just really different than what I'm used to in Emily Henry books, and I'm liking it. And I feel like if you're picking up this book and you are expecting a bit more like the older Emily Henry books, I don't think you're going to find it in this one. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm going to continue reading as much as I can the next few days. Done. Finished reading this. I have quite a bit of thoughts on it, so I'm gonna sit on my thoughts about this book for a bit, but I can't wait to talk about this. So yeah. we are currently at the end of this video, and I thought I would end this video with just sharing some of my thoughts on Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. And overall, I gave this book a 5 stars. In my opinion, this is one of my favorite Emily Henry books. And I would say, and I feel like Emily Henry is such a interesting author in that if you ask anyone who has read her books, majority of people are going to have a different favorite book of hers. And that's really interesting. And so there's a lot of debate online as to sort of what is Emily Henry's best book and all of that. But at the end of the day, it is very subjective on the reader and all of that. And really from what you're just trying to take away from her books, I think what's so good about Emily Henry is that her writing is really easy to get into. Obviously she writes romance and all of that, but hers sort of dive into more literary fiction. There are so many layers to her books, and I feel like that's why a lot of her books are very subjective. It really depends on which book you pick up first, I would say, and which characters you relate to. And all of her books are very different from each other, even though they do follow a very specific formula to each other, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that to like shade or anything. Like, I think Emily Henry has found her footing. She knows what works in her book, she knows what doesn't. She uses that in the future. And so, yeah, to talk about Great Big Beautiful Life, again, this is one of my top Emily Henry books. I feel like as reviews are starting to roll in and all of that, this is getting a lot of mixed reviews. Some people like it, some people aren't a fan, and I feel like it really just depends on the person. It depends on what you're looking for in this book. This is very different from a lot of the other books that she's written. I would say I would say this one is probably the most different. And for me, most of the book worked. I really liked the element of there being two different writers and them there being a reason for them to be on this small island. They're competing to write the biography of this really famous actress who sort of went off the grid and just disappeared and all of that, and no one really knows her story. And so I really like that aspect of it. And a lot of this book is told in, I would say, flashbacks or almost like article like journals that recount Margaret, who's the actor, like her life and her experience growing up as like this actress and all of that. Personally, for me, I really like the mystery element to it and I really like the characters, but there were also some things that I feel like just didn't really flow as well as it could have with this book. And the way that Emily Henry writes, it kind of alternates. So there are some chapters where it's mainly focused on Margaret, and then it's the next chapters or so is Alice, the main character, her trying to unpack what she's learned from Margaret and how she's uncovering this mystery. She's sort of figuring out how she's going to write this book, and at the same time she's dealing with her own sort of things, her own personal family dynamic, and then also the dynamic between her and Hayden, the male love interest. And so what I really liked about this book is that I was engaged the entire time while reading, but the thing is, the pacing of it was kind of weird because we would get moments where we would be in Margaret's chapters, and I was like, I would get so invested up until the end, and then all of a sudden we're switching into Alice's chapters, and then you're reading about the sort of romance between her and Hayden. And the romance in this one comes in a lot quicker than a lot of Emily Henry's other books. So you go from like this mystery kind of like unpacking like this timeline, and then you move into Alice and Hayden, kind of their rivalry, their love story, and then that gets me really hooked, and then all of a sudden I'm back in Margaret's point of view. And so I felt like it jolted me a lot in that like I would get really interested in one aspect, and then all of a sudden I'd be taken into another area, have to explore that area, and right when I'm getting invested, we go back into the other thing I was invested in. So it just felt very like the pacing just felt kind of weird to me in that it was very fast paced and all that, but it just didn't flow as naturally as it could have. But I feel like if you're looking for a book that's more like, you know, I would say like beach read. I would say beach read is much more character driven. If you're looking for a more character driven novel where the character is, sort of unpacking a lot of their thoughts and unpacking all of these layers about them and all of that, and learning to come to terms with a lot of, different things. I don't know. Beach read is not one of my favorite Emily Henry books. And so for me, I really like this because it was more plot based. And, I thought it was just a really fun book, especially for the summer and all of that. I just thought it was a really fun book. And I like the mystery element. And I thought that, the mystery element was done well. But at the same time, I'm also someone who loves reading, characters about like fictional, like rich people, Nepo babies, superstars. So this was actually giving very much like Taylor Jenkins Reid, I would say. A lot of people were comparing it to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I've never read that book, but it did give me, in a way, like some Daisy Jones and the Six vibes. The story is kind of told, it's sort of like you're uncovering like this life of like this actress and all of that, and by the end of it you do feel like bad for her and all that, and like it does like hit your heart a lot, even though it's not the most relatable thing in that sense. But there's Emily Henry's just so good at writing like different, you know passages and descriptions that are done in such a simple manner, and they're yet so effective. Here are my Henry book rankings. So maybe if you have these like similar rankings to me, then you would kind of see where like Great Big Beautiful Life, if you would like it or not. But my first one would probably still be Happy Place, then Great Big Beautiful Life, then Funny Story, then, okay, book lovers and people we meet on vacation are on the same tier. And then beach read is the bottom. I could not get into beach read. I don't know what it was. It's just, I feel like beach read was a book that I just could not, like, I read it at the wrong place at the wrong time, like just not at the right moment. Where it's like, yeah. So maybe I will go back and read Beach Read, but it's not my most favorite book. I really liked, my favorite is still Happy Place, and I feel like that's also because it was like the first Emily Henry book I picked up. And so I didn't have like a standard set as to sort of like Emily Henry's writing and all that. That was my first introduction. And so, like, that was just an experience in itself. So, I also think the first Emily Henry book you read affects how you read the other ones. So, yeah. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I gave it 5 stars. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video if you made it this far. Normally, I don't read this many books in a week, but this week was an exception to it. I just ended up reading a lot of books, than normal, and a lot of them being new releases or just releases that really got me hooked. And somehow I ended up finding 2 5-star reads, which was just kind of insane because I'm a very, I don't know, this, I feel like this video makes it look like I am easy to please when it comes to reading, but really I'm like usually more critical. And so I just found like 2 books where it's like the vibe was right, the timing was right, and so yeah. But thank you so much for watching this video if you made it this far. I have some other videos up my sleeve, so hopefully I can get to filming those soon. We are coming into May, which is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and so please expect a lot more videos of me reading books by Asian authors and all of that. That is what I want, not necessarily to be known on at this channel, but on this channel, because I'm Asian and because there have been so many books by Asian American authors and all that that have touched me. I want to be able to share those books with you. So I will be reading a lot of Asian American books in this upcoming May, and I don't just read it for May, I read Asian American books all year long. Yeah, please join me in May for AAPI month, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!